All right. So welcome everybody to part 24 of the series, What Makes Our Inner Work Work? And I chose to call this chapter The Road Not Taken. I'll talk about it in a second. So welcome again to everyone here with us on Zoom, and welcome to anyone who's watching this in the future. Just to begin in a kind of a more connective way, I'd like us to all imagine for a second, you can close your eyes if you'd like, that we are all together, even though we are separated by space and time, definitely by space, but also some of you may be watching this in the future and not live. So let's imagine for 1 second that we are all together, all those people watching this live broadcast. We're at the same place, at the same time, and we are converging as fellow travelers on the road, perhaps to learn how to be ourselves, how to be sovereign, how to be free, and yet help each other on the road. Perhaps we are all together on a pilgrimage to ourselves. So for 1 minute, look around you and see the other fellow travelers, old and young, all walking separately but together. Now, the road not taken, as I've called this part, can be something that we regret or even mourn. But of course, it can also be a great celebration. Wow, how good and wise of me to choose this much better road and not that road. Now, when people are in great suffering and manage to get out of survival mode, it's easy to understand that they might want to make a great effort to better their lives and find meaning and depth and joy in their life. But sometimes this ability to strive for a deeply meaningful life is harder for those people who seem to live an okay life, or even what is considered a good life. So, you know, we can have a nice family and enough money, or maybe even a lot of money, and then we can enjoy things from, you know, be it good food or a good relationship, or at least an okay relationship. We can enjoy being in nature, hiking, books, TV series, movies, concerts, friends, etc. So we can live a comfortable life. And it's definitely our right to choose this okay life that has a good amount of safety or apparent safety and comfort and nice stuff to do and experience. So it's definitely our, we're free to choose that, and it's our right to choose that. But sometimes I wonder, when we do configure such a life for ourselves, are we really choosing this path? Or is it that we don't even know there are other paths? Or are we influenced by all sorts of inner parts or outer parts, such as collective things, and we actually don't have free choice about it, and we don't know that there are other options So we don't have free choice. So it's absolutely fine to choose a life that is to some degree a life of safety and comfort. But again, the question is, are we choosing, or is something choosing for us? And do we know that there is a choice or not? I just read a few pages from a diary I wrote when I was 20 or perhaps 21. It was during my very long 10-year depression, but it seems at that point I was in a lighter phase for a brief period. From this diary, I can learn that I was meeting lots of friends, I was going to movies and writing about my experiences in these movies. I was studying English literature at the university. I was having heart-to-heart conversations with certain girlfriends. And I recall having this vague feeling when I was around 20 at the university. I recall having this vague feeling that you can continue like this forever. You know, with some artistic and intellectual stimulation, friends and movies, and it just seemed like an acceptable kind of life. And I thought that, okay, I can live like this. But for me, it was a very thin layer over an abyss of emotions and difficulties I couldn't do anything about at that point. And a few months later, I dived again into worse and worse depression for the next 3 years or so. So there was a short attempt to just live a normal, moderately satisfying life. But for me, it failed completely. It really wasn't for me to just survive and make do with an okay life. I had to live with a capital L. 6 years later, at 26, I was already living a life with a lot of depth and meaning and joy and feeling much, much, much better, completely changed. But I had to start dealing with things that were welling up and demanding that I notice and work with them. So my choice to really live was already made. But there were many inner parts in me that didn't agree at all to this choice. And today I'm going to share with you a large chunk of my work journal to explain it more. Now, this is very, very basic work from 20 years, I think 28 years ago. And after 32 years of doing more and more sophisticated work and teaching and developing it, I'm actually impressed with this beginner's work because it was really, really brave and because it brought me, from my point of view, very, very far into today and into a state where all that difficulties, all these difficulties are really an old memory. And I'm going to read you quite a long process. I hope you have the patience. We will begin at the beginning of this process. And then I will read you how the session with myself when I was 26 ended. And then you will hear the work itself. Okay? So this is the beginning of this thing from November 92. Okay, so my math isn't my strongest suit, but I would say it's 28 years ago, right? So this is what it says. I'm feeling a bit stuck. I started smoking a little bit more. Today, I spent a lot of the day just gazing at the TV, sleeping, with a sense of futility, a feeling that is superficial but worrying. and oppressive. And I really want to speak with those parts that are involved. I'm talking about inner parts, inner selves that are involved, if they agree and if I can manage it. So who is the part that wants everything to stay just as it is? I don't want anything to change. When everything stays the same, I feel safe. I know what the rules of the game are. But you know, with these rules of the game, Ora really suffers. And it's not that healthy for her, it seems. She gives up a lot of joy and health. I know. But in return, she gets security and safety. She knows where she stands. And she behaves just like she's used to behave. When you need to fold in order not to receive a blow, that's what she does. But she does receive blows. Yes, but in the long run, you know, it's fine. It's fine. So why destabilize everything? Why destabilize everything and take a risk? So I ask him, if you felt the risk was not that big anymore, and that Ora is learning how to confront and how to deal with everything, would you allow her more progress? Maybe, but I don't like it at all. I prefer everything just as it is. So I ask him, what exactly is your job in Ora? Do you agree to explain? I'm really, really interested in it. I maintain the status quo. When there is change, it can always be worse. And this I tell you from experience. When she was little, if she struck back, she always got hurt in the end. So what did she get out of it? Okay, I say. So are there any more things you'd like to tell me or add? Yes, I'm afraid of change. Change is suspicious for me in my eyes. Who needs it? It's better to just somehow survive and go through life in peace. And that's that. That's my recommendation. And that's what my experience shows. A static situation is the safest and most stable and most quiet situation. So I say, thank you very much for sharing all your thoughts with me and all your opinions. I really appreciate your help and see you later. Then he says, I'm not going anywhere. Because I said, see you later, you see. Okay. And then I continue the work and I say, I'd be really glad now to talk with whoever it is who makes Ora feel desperate, hopeless. Who is it that knows for sure that she doesn't stand a chance? And then somebody else comes. That's me. Of course that she doesn't stand a chance and she's hopeless. I've been telling it to her all the time. I can see very well, and I can't see any hope for her. She has no strength to move herself, and if she did, I'm sure she will fall. There is nothing in the future for her. Maybe, and I doubt that as well, for others there is something, but for her, there is nothing waiting at all. So I ask him, do you know that you nearly cause her to want to die, to give everything up? And he answers, reality is reality and you can't change it. So if she wants to die or rot, it's okay by me. So I ask him, Do you want her to die or don't you care either way? I don't care. I don't care about anything. Why should I care? What good does it do? So I say, thank you very much for the cooperation and for letting me know how you feel and what you think. And then I continue. I want to talk now with the part in Ora that feels depressed by the situation and wants to die because there's no faith and no hope. Is it possible? And then somebody answers and says, it's not the right time now. Okay, so I continue. And then I say, so now I'd be glad to talk with the critic, the side in Ora that always has criticism about her. And then the critic arrives. Sure, I'd be glad to come. So I ask the critic, what do you think requires fixing in Ora? And this is what he told me. She's completely wrong and negative. She's ugly. She has no backbone. She's dirty and lazy. She has no strength and energy to move herself. She's like a kind of mollusk or a kind of cockroach. She is subhuman. She doesn't take advantage even of the little potential that she has. And especially this pathetic weakness. It's disgusting. It's just something you want to stamp on with your foot and just finish with this disgusting stuff. She's so pathetic and disgusting. So I ask this critic, so what does Ora need to do so that you would be happy with her and pleased with her? And he answers, she needs to be as strong as iron. She needs to be solid and stable and strong. She needs to be as sharp as a knife all the time. And she has to stop being lazy, and she has to always be diligent and active and successful. So I ask him, and what if Ora was all these things? Would you be happy then? And then the critic answers, well, it requires quite a lot of imagination to imagine it. So, but actually, that's pretty disgusting as well. She is just disgusting, and that's it. She has no chance. Whatever she does, she will always stay disgusting. So I say to the critic, thank you. Thank you very much for coming, and see you later. And then I say, is there another self, another voice, another part in me that wants to say something optimistic or something that has faith in Ora, in her abilities to succeed and to be happy? I'd really, really like to talk with somebody like that. Then somebody answers, it's very difficult for me to come out with all this negativity and all this depression around here. I'm really pissed off by this. You can really become very, very angry here because how can they all be so sure? Who are they that they know everything and everything is so negative? And they're so strong that it's very difficult not to believe in them. And even if I know that it's only just a part of the story, it's still very, very difficult for me to not believe in them. So I ask, can you please tell me who I'm talking with? And then the interesting answer is, I am an objective side. And here we hear a very one-sided picture of the situation. The optimistic and self-assured sides and the happy sides of Ora are all shoved aside by these other parts, and maybe others that spoke here before. And there is no balance here in the way things are portrayed. Ora definitely has hope, and she definitely has a chance. It only depends on the fact, on if she creates more balance in her life and believes these other sides less, and definitely not in an automatic way. And she needs to listen to her optimistic sides. So I say, sorry, the writing here is a bit unclear. I ask him, "You're a man, right?" And he gives me the feeling that yes, he is a man. And how do you suggest Ora should work in this direction? And he says, whenever she's feeling bad and depressed and loses hope, she has to be unidentified with the parts that are critical and that make her feel hopeless. And she can also stop being identified with her weaker parts. And she has to remain much more objective. Perhaps she can call for help and get the optimistic sides to hear them as well. There is room for all the parts here, and there is no justification to make it impossible for the optimistic and hopeful parts to say to speak there as well. That's my opinion, and I wish you good luck, he says. I say, thank you very much. I think you said very, very important things here. And I really appreciate your sight and your objectivity. Thank you very, very much. And then it says, to end this session, I would like to talk with a side within Ora that doubts everything that's going on here and the reality of things, especially what I just did. Sure, somebody comes. Everything seems very, very doubtful for me. How can you know if these parts were really talking here and it's not some kind of fantasy or imagination of yours? I'm very, very skeptical. How can you know that you're not inventing this? And if you're inventing it, it has no meaning. So I ask him, is there anything that could convince you that this stuff is real? And he says, it's all very doubtful. I'm very, very skeptical. I simply can't be sure that this is real. And I ask, are there more instances in which you are doubting, you doubt that something is real? And then he says, I'm always skeptical and have doubts about your judgment and about your solutions. And a lot of what you do seems very doubtful to me and unsafe. That's it. So I say, thank you very much for coming and talking. And then the session ends like this. There's a need to find an outlet for cruel and sadistic sides so as to enable them to better express themselves without hurting me and the inner children. And then it says this, there is a slow, very small feeling of peace for the inner child and love for her. Amen. I will read this last part again because I think it's so important. So the session ends with these two sentences. First, this realization after this pretty challenging conversation I had with all these inner parts, this comes. There is a need to find an outlet for cruel and sadistic sides so as to enable them to better express themselves without hurting me and the children inside. And then there is a slow, very small feeling of peace for the inner child and love for her. Amen. So this was, for me, on the one hand, very, very basic work. But on the other hand, it's really life-changing work, because ever since I had the good luck to choose the path in life, which is not the okay life path, but the path that is more challenging, but so much more satisfying, I had the good luck to be able to really do the work. And everything that I've read for you, read here, you know, for me, these are really, really ancient memories. This really, really changes if you put in a lot of work. And I agree, it's a lot of work, and it's not always easy. It's not easy to talk with an inner part that thinks you're disgusting, that you have no backbone, that you're like a cockroach, that you're dirty and ugly. And what else did he say about me? Subhuman, he said. It's not easy to hear these things. And these inner parts really mean it. It's not, you know, there's a lot of rough, raw energy and disgust and anger and things like that that we need to figure out a way to listen to and to stop identifying with, so that we can begin to flower. And we can't do it if we just choose the okay life. And we can't do it if we don't figure out ways of doing this work safely. But once we decide that we really want to live, and it doesn't matter how old we are when we choose to do it, or how many mistakes and regrets we have about our life, it really doesn't matter. Even a year of profound living is worth so much. I'm only stating my opinion. It's not some kind of, you know, eternal truth. So once you agree to listen to these parts, and then sometimes agree to listen to even worse parts, like sadistic parts or parts that want you to die and stuff like that, and you manage to balance them with sides like the part that I spoke with nearing the end of this session, the part that called itself the objective side, and also, of course, parts that are really, really supportive, and you know how to do the work well, things really, really begin to shift and move. And then you can move on to talking with even worse parts. And I'm not being critical or judgmental of them. I mean that there are parts that are even more difficult to hear. But even after this very, very, how would I call it, basic session that I did at that time, 28 years ago, it ended with a tiny little moment of a little bit more peace and love. Okay, now it's very easy for us to skip these little tiny bits of change. Because especially where we're in a sea of trouble and everything is so stormy and there's so many harsh feelings and opinions about ourselves and stuff like that, it's really difficult to notice that for even 1 second something changed. And it's really important to do that. And one of the ways of doing it is the way I spoke about at length in the last show, which is called Vital Journaling, because the moment we actually write things down and reread them and rework them and so on and so forth, the process that we are doing gains more momentum and depth. So I really, really hope this was helpful in some way, and you're very welcome to write in the chat. It can be either in English or in Hebrew, and I'll translate. Whether you have questions or you want to say something, we'll give it a second and see if there's anything that somebody wants to add.
מותר לשאול, אורה?
If you do it in English and it's very short.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot. I want to ask something. It was very interesting for me, and when I feel like I want to die, I know it's the little child inside me, that the little child that wants, that have a death wish.
Death wish. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't have a character like that that wants Sarah to die. It's the inner child inside me that just wants to.
Well, I'll tell you. Okay, you know, there are all sorts of situations, and we can't know for sure until we actually begin the investigation.
Yeah.
But from my experience, usually, if you have a side that wants to die, there is somebody that makes it want to die. So you really would do well to look for it. You know, if it's not there, it's not there. But there is a very good chance that you do have some side, if not a few, that are very much against you. They may not necessarily say, I want Sarah to die, you know, but they can just say, she's not worth, I don't know what, or her life isn't worth a thing. Now, if you only work with one part of the equation, then it won't work as well. Because
what is equation?
Equation is mishva'ah. Okay, one part of the story. If you only work with the part that is victimized, and you don't work with the part that to a certain extent causes the victimization, then you know it continues. It doesn't stop. So even if you learn to take better care of your inner children, which is a lot, the abuse continues. Okay?
No,
so
I
it's
don't
not
feel
as
it
helpful.
like that. I think it's only
well, you
as a caprice.
What?
I don't feel it in that way of characters that are abusing me. I can feel it in you know, after they broke to my house. Now it looks very good that they did it because I get insurance money. Everything is for the best, but
okay. Look,
at the same time that it happened, so there was a little child that wanted to break the tools down.
Okay. So look, Sarah,
I can laugh about it like a stand-up that take me back to my planet. Planet Earth is too dark for me. Just take me back. It's too much time that I'm.
Look, I can't take too much time about answering you, but it's a very good question. What I really want to say here is that from my point of view, it's always the wisest thing to do to be very, very open-minded and to look for it. You can ask, is there somebody that, you know, wants to cause my inner child harm, for example, and see if somebody comes up. If not, great. Okay, lucky you. But very often, it's not the case. So check it and it'll be interesting to hear. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Wow.
We have a few more comments in the chat. Let's see. Somebody says, I joined near the end. I wanted to say thank you for the willingness to be exposed. It was meaningful for me at this point. And of course, it's important, very important to remind everybody that this is a 28-year-old work. So this is most certainly not the situation today for me. And this is what I'm trying to show, amongst other things, that this work actually works if you put yourself to it and you really do enough of it. And enough is pretty much. So I really recommend it. All these characters that you met, the skeptic, the critic, who else was there? Oh, the one that wanted to keep everything static and maintain the status quo, and all the rest of them who were really giving me a very hard time at the time. They've all changed, and they're all working together with me, and my life has turned completely into something completely different. So it is possible. Okay. Let's see what else. Somebody else says, thank you very much. It was meaningful. And somebody asks, do you mean that the inner self that wants to die is influenced, I would say, by another inner self or a few other inner selves that make her want to die? I'm saying that very often this is the case. So if you, for example, feel worthless, okay, it's very, very likely that there is somebody in you that is criticizing you all the time and telling you that you're worthless. It's very rare that I don't find somebody like this when that's the situation. Okay. Somebody else writes, for me too, it's an interesting point of view. So whenever you find one piece of, again, I'm calling it an equation, but you know, I'm not talking about anything mathematical, but there is a kind of situation where you feel that somebody is getting hit or is feeling worthless or is feeling weak. Ask the question, is there somebody who is causing this other part to feel this way? Now, it can be very confusing sometimes because, of course, there can be other reasons for the same thing. For example, something that our parents told us when we were kids, and it somehow was kind of accepted by one of the inner kids or all of them. And now this is how they feel. Okay, so the inner kid heard or interpreted things as if it wasn't worth anything, and that's how it stayed. But usually, again, we have to be careful with saying such things, but still, usually there would be somebody, another voice inside us that is similar to what, for example, our teacher said, or to how our father was, you know, or what he said or how he behaved towards us. And we also would have an inner part like that. So the road not taken. We will call it a day for now. And thank you all again for being here with me, and see you soon.
Thank you very much, Ora. I'm so impressed. I admire you. I don't know how you could do that 20 years ago. How old were you?
I was 28 years ago. I was 26 at that point. Yeah, but look, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter when we start. Sometimes we for all sorts of reasons, we begin later. It doesn't matter at all. The important thing is to, if we want to, of course, is to just trust that there are ways. And of course, this isn't the only way to do it, but there are ways that work, and to just start doing it, figure out how to do it, whether by yourself or get help, and choose a path, in my opinion, that isn't just living or just surviving, because there's so much more in life than that. So thanks a lot, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
תודה רבה, לא הצלחתי לכתוב את זה, אז תודה. ביי.
ביי.